You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 80. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today's episode is about the difference between developmental editing and copy editing. Before you ask, yes, you need both, and you might need them more than once. Your book needs to be evaluated and picked apart at the story level, that's developmental editing, and at the line-by-line level, that's copy editing. Both these types of edits come before proofreading, which should be the final stage in your editing process before you get the book formatted for publishing. What is developmental editing? Dev edits focus on the overall story, the plot, flow, pacing, setting, structure, characters, and theme. It's big picture editing, and as a result, you might find that a lot of your story, especially the middle, might go through massive changes. My first book, Mark of Stars, went through not one, not two, but 3 developmental edits. The first draft of 105,000 words got whittled down to about 65,000 words over the course of those 3 edits. I also, as a consequence, blew up the middle of my story twice. I combined characters, improved characters, changed character motivations, gave characters deeper roles and tougher jobs, and overall improved the story a heck of a lot more than if I'd just redrafted the first version 6 or 7 times. I think developmental edits are non-negotiable in the writing process. While yes, they are likely going to be the biggest chunk of your self-publishing expenses, they are, by far, the most worth it. I would be appalled if the first version of Mark of Stars had been published without going through those extensive edits. For me, the rewrites after developmental edits is actually my favorite part of the writing process. I spend up to 4 hours on a Zoom call with Haley, going through all of her edits, and then we have a conversation about the story, and we often brainstorm new obstacles or ways of doing things. The good news is that as you get more experience writing, your future books might not need more than 1 or 2 developmental edits. Book 2, for example, The Prophet's Ruin, only went through 1 developmental edit, and I'm expecting as much for books 3 and 4 as well, but I'm also open to them having to take more than 1 developmental edit. Now, what is copy editing? Copy editing, on the other hand, is focused on line-by-line sentence structure, vague language, awkward dialogue, word choice, and your adherence to your style sheet, grammar consistency, especially if you're not writing in American English. It's also about improving clarity, tightening up the prose, and generally making the story easier to read. This type of editing is where Lauren, my copy editor, points out my repeated phrasing, my passive language, use of the words was and had, and she'll also suggest alternatives for wordy sentences. She might also ask about fact-checking to make sure word choice or descriptions are correct. For example, in Book 2, The Prophet's Ruin, I initially described the size of the sea wolf's ice cannonballs as watermelon-sized. And Lauren asked if Argent, the point of view character for that chapter, even knew what watermelons were, considering he does not live in a warm climate that would be known for producing watermelons. And so when I considered that question, I ended up removing the reference to watermelons. For me, reviewing the copy edits is not super time intensive. I might take a few days to a week to accept or reject the changes, or go back and forth with Lauren about one of her comments. On the other hand, developmental rewrites can take anywhere from several weeks to a few months, depending on how much time I can commit. Copy editing and developmental editing are not comprehensive by themselves. A developmental editor will overlook things a copy editor will pick up, and a copy editor will ignore things a developmental editor or a proofreader will point out. I actually think we need all 3. We need developmental, copy editing, and proofreading, because they all hit different aspects of the work. We should not skimp on editing, least of all developmental. In some cases, you can basically get a developmental edit done if you have particularly vicious but trusted critters, but in my opinion, we need to invest in editing if we are serious about putting good work out there and expecting readers to get sucked into the story. Editing is what lets readers have a smooth, uninterrupted experience. If they catch a typo or a plot hole or a really wordy run-on sentence, it can pull them out of the immersion and ruin their experience of the book. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. Thanks for listening to the Novel Writing Podcast. If you're ready to stop struggling and start finishing your novel, check out the 60-Day Novel Writing Challenge. It's a step-by-step program designed for solo writers to complete their first draft with clarity and focus. Visit the link in the description to learn more.